Hello, this is TelecomTV. We're in Paris at the MPLS, SDN and NFV World Congress 2016. And I'm talking with Noosha, as you like to be called, Monshizadeh, who is Security Research Specialist, Bell Labs at Nokia Networks in Finland. Noosha, thanks for talking to us.
Thanks for your time.
Nice to have a lady here for a change instead of another man, I must say. A bit short of women in telecoms and networks. Now, you're a security specialist, and we'll come on to that in a moment. But I'd like to begin by putting us in the context of where we are at this event and talk about, by asking you, SDN and NFV, new technologies, transforming the networks, MPLS, a fairly venerable old technology which has been very useful in its time and is still being used. But my question is, do you think SDN and NFV will make MPLS redundant?
Well, could be, but in my opinion, not.
Why not?
They could complement each other rather than redundant. For example, we could consider large data center with thousands of servers, multiple virtual machines that are using SDN and OpenFlow for forwarding traffic. We know the table in router and switches get overflowed and full because the capacity of OpenFlow switches are between 1,000 and 16,000. So what is the solution? We have multiple solutions. First, using MPLS for traditional core control plane forwarding and SDN just for segment routing. Another way is we use SDN for control MPLS labeling in hypervisor. We switch and keep the state per VM limited. So we see they are not redundant. They are completing each other's. Another benefit of MPLS that keeps it still important for us and not redundant with SDN is the old application of MPLS. We know the public WAN are using for decades MPLS. So it's much easier to keep MPLS encapsulation in edge of data center in compare of changing everything. Or for technologies like voice over IP that they need low overhead, absolutely MPLS is the solution.
Do you think MPLS then still has a long life ahead of it?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's a very straightforward answer. One of the major concepts in NFV is that of openness. We know that for once this is something that hasn't been driven by vendors and manufacturers. A move towards SDN and particularly towards NFV has been instigated by the service providers, and they don't want to be locked into a particular vendor or manufacturer again. So they're saying, look, we want open systems. We want this to be an open platform with different solutions available on it. This has led to a lot of them, Nokia Networks included, forming a variety of ecosystems as they hope to win service provider business. Now, how then do service providers go about selecting which ecosystem they're going to choose, given that many of them have got the same players in them? So is that confusing to them? How do they go about choosing their transformation partner?
To be honest, it's not easy for them, neither for service providers nor for vendors, telecom vendors, because of the limitations we have. We all know that rigid way of working of standardization companies, they are so rough. So still we don't have fully standardized OPNFV. So all the time new variants are coming and introduced or by different vendors or by different companies. While we have these issues, it wouldn't be easy to choose one variant as a transformation technology. For example, we have different silos like in cloud infrastructure for IMS, for packet core, for radio, for IT. Moving between these silos are not easy. They are slow and costly, especially if one service provider or one vendor wants to offer end-to-end solution. So it wouldn't be, in my opinion, easy for them unless they are joining this open source project like Open Daylight. But still we see even these open source projects, when it goes to very good idea, these big players like owner of this open source project, they try to keep that idea for their self, and we go to IPR issues.
Indeed. So it's a complicated business, and there isn't a simple, straightforward answer to it yet. Will there be one in a year or so?
Not really. It takes years until we have fully standardized OP-NFV.
Thank you. Can we move on to talk about your specialization in security? What are the main issues of moment right now as far as SDN, NFV and MPLS security is concerned?
Okay. Actually, the security concern of SDN is not really different than traditional network. The only difference is now we have a centralized or programmable network. So if some attacker try to reach the network, they can hold the network. But the prevention and the detection mechanism are similar to traditional network.
Okay. So what is, if there's an attacker, if someone tries to hack into something, does the fact that it's SDN make any particular difference, especially given the fact that we very often talk these days about carrier grade SDN?
Yes, of course. And the reason for that, as I mentioned earlier, is this programmable and centralized, and as you mentioned, the grid network, carrier grid network.
Indeed. Yeah.
So we have possibility to work on monitoring the monitoring of the cloud and monitoring, real-time monitoring of SDN.
Thank you. And what are the developments that you've seen over the past few years? What direction is security going in? It's obviously getting better. It has to, because there will still be attacks always. What is the main thrust of the industry in general? And I'm not asking you to give away Nokia's secret sauce or anything like that, but what direction is the SDN industry going in as far as security is concerned?
Absolutely, not only Nokia, I think other vendors are doing the same. We are concentrating on machine learning technologies for attack detection. So we have an adaptable prevention or detection mechanism. So because the attacker in cloud infrastructure, first of all, we have huge amount of data.
Sure.
We need to filter data as much as possible, and for that we need the intelligence or intelligent methods, or easiest, the big data algorithm or machine learning. That's what we are concentrating on. And I think all the competitors are in this phase at the moment.
Thank you. Let's talk last of all about NFV. You remember this as well as I do. I've been following this for a long time. 3 and a bit years ago, NFV burst onto the world, a completely radical technology that's going to change the networks around the world and have an enormous effect on everybody down the line. But it is down the line. I have been talking often and a great deal to NFV vendors and to service providers and so on, talking about where NFV is now. And a lot of vendors are beginning to say, look, we got to proof of concept stage a year and more ago, we got to RFIs a year and more ago, and we don't seem to have moved on any further than that. We seem to be stuck in this stage of development. Do you think that's true to begin with?
Actually, for proof of concept, we have still long way to go, at least not in coming years. Especially in telecom industry. You know, in telecom or mobile industry, we are limited to specifications or standardizations organization like 3GPP.
Indeed.
Okay, and while you know this SS7, it is an old protocol, still it is used after many decades. Still, when new technology comes, we try to adapt our new technology based on those old protocols. It is not a solution. It is costly and it is slow, especially for service providers or for vendors that they want to have cash soon as possible. So while we consider to adapt always new technologies based on the old protocol, it's not easy. Who else than 3GPP says that for GTP encapsulation or for mobility management, we have to use SAW gateway or mobility management entity? Network function is not dependent on the network element. That's something that we should consider. You always can have new solution, new innovation to handle your traffic.
Lastly then, Noosha, how long do you think it'll be before we see the real commercial use cases in NFV?
Difficult question. I think over 5 years.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's a straightforward and honest answer. So, Noosha Monshizadeh, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you also for your time.